Hello and welcome to our STC CAC webinar, Getting to Know the STC Slack Workspace. I would like to introduce our two speakers that we have with us today, Todd DeLuca and Grant Hogarth. So please feel free to take the production at your convenience. Thank you both.
Okay, Todd, you want to do your intro first, or you want me to go first?
Why don't you go ahead and introduce
right.
Slack, and then what I'll do is I'm going to present on just the STC, where to go for resources and kind of hit the highlights.
Cool. All right, my name is Grant Hogarth. Of course, one's voice goes all wonky. Sorry, I am running into a problem with sharing my screen. There we go. I'm Grant Hogarth. I'm an STC senior member, and I currently work for a company called Workiva. I've been doing tech writing for about 30 odd years, and I've been working with Slack for about 4. So I'm not a guru, but I'm fairly well-versed in a lot of things. Always finding something new. Of course, they're always keeping to adding things. So getting to know the STC Slack workspace. So what is Slack? Slack is, well, not tight or taut, half or pair of pants, the time between the inflow and outflow of a tide, and a really good way for teams or groups to communicate. And that's what we're really interested in. So, bit of trivia, Slack is actually an acronym for Searchable Log of All Conversation and Knowledge. There's a trivia one you can drop on your coworkers. Slack and the STC has a whole lot of channels, including one for every community of interest. Communities of practice may have their own Slack workspaces. Just to give you a context, a workspace is like a company, and channels are like divisions within that company. And you can belong, unlike maybe joining multiple companies, you can belong to multiple workspaces. When I show my workspace, my Slack, please, you'll be able to see that. For those folks that are already used to using Slack, STC is currently running on the free version, so not all the enhancements that you're used to are available. Sad but true. So, quick one here, how to install Slack if you don't have it. Go to Slack Downloads and download the version for your OS, run the installer. That's it. It's one of those difficult ones. Now, the tricky bit, I should say, is that you'll need to provide an email address, and that will be associated with that workspace that you've joined. You can end up having different workspaces with different emails, all in the same client. So it's like having one of those third-party email clients that's got multiple email addresses on it. Sometimes it can get a little confusing. All right, so once you've installed it, you should receive by email an invitation to join the STC workspace. If not, here's the URL to go to. Again, really difficult. Once you go to the invite, click on the link and that connects you. Inside the workspace, there are multiple channels. Another analogy to think of them as breakout rooms, each focused on a different area of interest. So there's ones for jobs, there's ones for general, there's ones, I think, for cats, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's always an ebb and flow of new channels. So, as Springsteen sang, 57 channels and nothing on, which ain't true. There's a lot happening. You just need to find it. If you know the channel you want to join, you can locate channel on the left-hand side of the client, and I'll pop this up over top. So you locate the channel on the left-hand side and select it. If you're looking for a channel, click the plus, go browse channels, and you can search. and it will show you which ones you are a member of and which ones you're not currently a member of. So that's, oops, there we go. You mouse over it, click join. And just as I say, if you don't know the name of the channel, don't panic. Just scroll through the list until you find it. Okay, now that you're in, what now? Now you can communicate with all the people on the channels that you have joined. First thing you're going to want to do is set up your profile, and I'll cover that in the demo. But things to remember. Everyone who is on the channel can see everything posted to the channel. So be wary about that. Help is the circled and it's being hidden, of course. Let's go back here. There is a help being in, it's being masked on my display by the, there we go. You'll have to see both. There's the help button, or you, as typical with a Windows application, press F1 to get help. Be very careful. There are @channel and @here aliases. The first notifies everyone in the channel. And then the second is everyone in the channel who is currently online. You will get a little pop-up warning saying, do you really want to do this? So think about it. Where possible, best practice is to respond to a post using a thread. And to do this, over the message you'd like to reply to, you click the reply in thread icon, which looks like a little, thought bubble or speech bubble. Type your reply, send your message. Tip is, if you want to be sure that someone sees a post, like you want to make sure I see something or Todd, you would put @ and their username in the post. And that we'll talk about notifications in a bit, but that will get you, bring it to their attention explicitly.
Rand?
Yes.
I want to stop you for one moment. If you were showing something in Slack, we were unable to see that in the screen. We only saw the slides.
I was not at that time.
Okay, I just want to make sure earlier in the
here,
thread, there was just some comments in the chat that they thought you were maybe referencing showing them actually something in
No,
Slack.
I can do this. So if I wanted to say @
So we'll review that in a bit.
If I could spell her name, that would help.
Because right now we're only seeing your slides, so I'm not seeing the slide.
Okay, thank you. I was thinking I was sharing my window.
So I'm only seeing.
Yeah, hang on a second, and I will. Guess I have to pop in and out. I'm used in the more advanced version, you can show. There we go. Here we go. I was just being delusional. There. Can people see now sort of the Slack purple over the
Yes.
STCs? Thank you. And thank you for bringing it up. So as I was talking, if I wanted to peg Aaron Galley, it would directly ping her and she would do that if she is in that channel. If she's not in the channel, in that workspace rather. Okay. If you couldn't see before, then I need to talk about, here's the help button up at the top. And the channels and the workspaces. The little alert there says that I'm not logged into that particular workspace at this time. All right, continuing on. Navigation, Alt or Option and an arrow key to move you around if you want to keep your fingers on the keyboard. Shortcut Control or Command and the letter T will show you all channels and direct messages that have unread messages. So when I'm looking here, these are bold, indicates there's an unread message. And that is another way of seeing it. Okay, working with channels. You can set custom notifications for each channel. For example, to stay in a channel but not get notified about every post, you can mute the channel by clicking on the channel name and then selecting mute channel. So if I wanted to mute introductions, I would right click on it and select mute channel. To unmute it, obviously you unmute it. You can still interact with everything in the channel, you just won't see a pop-up for every message, or generally won't see a notification. To make sure you see a channel, and this is good if you've got a whole lot, like in my work thing, I've got a bunch of things, you can star the channel, which is basically you select star, and that now creates a group that has that. It doesn't do anything other than put it in a pay more attention to me location. You can also do this for direct messages or a specific individual contact. Now, one thing people don't realize, you've got your own channel here. And as this says here, this is your space. Nobody else can see this. I'm amused that you can talk to yourself, but you have to supply both sides of the conversation. Slack, you'll find the people there have whimsical senses of humor. So going on further, Slack has a lot of built-in shortcuts or slash commands. You'll hear them referenced for specific actions. And to trigger them, you just do slash and then the keyword. When you type slash in a Slack channel or direct message, a selection menu shows up, so that if we're here and I want to, slash, so those are, there we go. I can do Bookie, I can do collapse, which just collapses all of the things, expand, help, Google Calendar, Giphy, et cetera, et cetera. There are all sorts of commands. You can also use the lightning bolt here to see other suggestions. More shortcuts. If you make a typo, and we all do, you can use the up arrow key to move back into the message and then press E and make your change. So we were here, where was I? That was there, and I want to go back, so I'd up arrow, it moves it back into an editor. I can add whatever, make corrections, save changes. The only thing you'll notice is it adds edited to the note. Emojis are your friends, especially in the Slack world. So you can enter +, emoji name to insert an emoji. I think you'll find that pretty easily. Shift and escape clears all your unread message notifications. It's basically marking them as read all read. And to find more shortcuts, command or control and the question mark will find it. And the only reason these are in a pale blue is because the dark blue is starting to disappear into the background. I like the background, but I hate it at the same time. Searching, you can search in the workspace. Again, command / or control G to start a new search, or F to search in a channel or direct message series, a thread. I'm all the conversations that Todd and I have had, and I want to find that one where he referenced a particular technique, I can search on that key, phrase, and it will pop that up. I've listed here, I won't read through them all, but you can modify your search using filters. So for people, for channels, to see whether there's a link, date ranges, et cetera, et cetera. Notifications. This was something that people asked about before the presentation. When you're using Slack, you can receive desktop notifications. When you're away from your desk, you have the option to receive notifications either by email or in the Slack mobile app. You would have to obviously install and connect the mobile app to the workspace. By default, you get notifications when somebody sends you a direct message, somebody mentions you, somebody does an at channel or at here that you're in, or if you've set up keywords, it will notify you there. Also, if somebody replies to a thread you're following, and then there's this gadget in Slack called Slackbot, and that's sort of the automated system notifier. If you're used to it in a professional or on the full version, you can actually write your own Slack bots to do your own tasks. Tip, these defaults apply to both the desktop and the mobile notifications, unless you configure your preferences, and we'll go into that in a bit. No, all Slack notifications alerts present as badge color, what they call badges. So here it's saying that I've got 3 channels that I didn't do it. And then over here, I've got 2 channels or 2 messages and 1 message that I haven't read yet. If it was something that I searched on or had a keyword or and I've got this backwards. I apologize. I somehow had a brain fart. It should be red within the workspace and blue within the other messages. So I'll need to correct that. My apologies. And sadly, if you're used to the paid version, you can actually get sound beeps and tones and things like that. Free version, not available. Okay, configuring notifications for a channel. To configure the notification of a channel, click on the name, select the gear icon in the top bar. So if I want to say webinars, and I may not be the owner of this, there we go, there we go. And sorry. They've changed up the UI since I wrote this. I wrote this a bit back, and then they've done it. So there's how you can select for notifications, mentions, no notifications, mute the channel, and you can select for more. I hate that when I set up one thing and then they move it under me and I don't think to check on it. Tip for next and if you're ever doing a presentation, do a sanity check. Okay, you can use different settings for the mobile devices, and you would set those on your mobile device, and you can get notifications. So keywords. You can set up your profile to notify you if a specific term is used in a message, for example, documentation or API. They're not case sensitive, but they do have to be an exact match. So if I was putting it here, I've got my profile. I go to profile. Thank you. preferences, sorry, keywords. So if I wanted to see a keyword for this channel about dogs, I could do that in dog singular. And then if somebody posts in that channel, boom, I will get a notification and it will highlight that. In work, I've got API highlighted, I've got documentation highlighted, I've got video highlighted, so that if anybody is using any of those, they pop up and say, hey, pay attention to me. There are some webhooks and stuff that won't trigger the notifications. That's sort of a little esoteric, but just so you know, it's not necessarily absolutely everything. All right, questions that people had asked. To create a new line in a Slack post, just Alt and Enter to move it over. Another one, you can use /remind to remind somebody like yourself or a channel of something to do at a particular time. So you'd put remind @person and then the text and then put a time in. So yeah, here's some examples down below. I use that for a couple of lists that I'm on where I have to remind people to submit things by a certain time. So I've set it to trigger, and every Thursday morning, it kicks off and says, hey, team, remember to submit your time report. Other things, if you forgot what email you used, here's the link, and you can, as I say, enter emails until you get one that works. Sometimes you'll forget which ones you've used. If you use a password keeper, I would suggest creating a notepad in there or a security note that just says which Slack workspace you had which email associated with, because in a year you will have forgotten. If you want to post a GIF, you can do that. You can either upload one from your computer or enter /Giphy and a term. And so did we add the my apologies. I thought there we go. Yes, dogs, and you can click shuffle. It will continue to offer you various kinds of dogs, and you can send it, and boom. You got to be careful with that. Sometimes, depending on the workspace and who you're working with, some people are fond or less fond of that. /shrug literally enters that piece. So unfortunately, I can't zoom in on the SIG channel or the Slack space. It is the size it is. But you can see, you can add reactions. Party parrot, thank you, 100. There are, I won't say an infinite number of emojis, but there's a darn lot, big lot. And you can pre-filter, or you can say, it tries its best to match what you've seen. I did that, and it's like, okay, the only thing that's got T, H, A, and T in it is the top hat. So I think that is pretty much it. I've sort of flown by real fast. The deck that I've sent out, I sent to Aaron, and Aaron, let me send you an update and fix that typo. Has some references for more information. And with that, I will turn it over to Todd to talk about the STC, and then we'll leave time for questions.
Great. Well, thank you, Grant. Appreciate the introduction. Again, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Todd DeLuca. I am an STC board member, one of the Slack administrators, and a longtime volunteer servant leader in the organization community. So we're really glad that you could join us today. This is something we've been working on for a while, and we've kind of integrated and rolled out in the last year and a half stuff or so. It's been, very useful during these times for having a nice space and community for people to gather. And that's really what Slack is about. It's us providing a benefit to the members of a place where you can join and participate, you can ask questions, you can engage with other colleagues, and focus in on certain kinds of discussions, whether they're career-based, whether it's about STC, about what's going on in the communities, and job information and all that stuff. There's a lot of things that are out there. And I've mentioned, and I put different things in the chat as far as some tips and resources and other kinds of things that are out there. But we really have one place to get started. And I put the link in the chat too, and it's our STC webpage, and I'll try to share that. It's on the main STC page. Let's see, on panelists. Let's see. Oh, that's the options here. So let me pull up that main page. And this is on the STC webpage. So again, I put this link in it, but what this does is this really is your kind of place to get started. Talks about what Slack is. There's that key, that first link at the top is kind of the join. So when you figured out the email you want to use to enter the STC community Slack, you click that button, and that's how you'll gain access by submitting that email. And then the rest of it is just different information about how to get started, some tips on using the Slack app. This is where we will post additional resources and information, including Grant's slide deck and the recording of this webinar with some of this information to it. So it's kind of an available resource for you. Some highlights on some key channels, which change a little bit. I'll cover a few of those in a moment. And mentioning, for our special interest groups, SIG communities of interest, it's really our main place for a lot of those conversations in certain topic areas, that whether it's, solo to communicators, whether it's healthcare, women in TechCom, those are really a good place for a lot of people to interact there. And there's also a link here for some conduct information on, how we try to monitor things to make sure everybody's being professional and, courteous and respectful in the conversation as well. And while I'm going to stop sharing. There it is. On that, and just kind of hit some of the highlights a little bit. So again, this is really a great resource to learn what's going on with STC and to learn about what's going on in the communities. I mentioned this is a place where a lot of all our community of interest SIGs go as well, but there are also a lot of our chapters and other communities also post information about their events and their programs and webinars in Slack as well. So it's a really good place to find out about what's going on. I'll hit some of the main Slack things you want. And Grant, if you want to share, do you mind just sharing the screen of the, we're not going to go through them, but you'll kind of get an idea. I'm going to hit some of the channels which show up on the left. And you may not see all the channels when you get in there, but there's a browse feature where you can find a lot of existing channels because there's obviously a limited view, and we've got 60 some channels. Not everything is going to show up on your list. So you might have to scroll and look around a bit when you get started. And that's really the key is once you join in Slack, and if you've not used it before, it works kind of like Teams. If you use Teams at work, it's really that, conversation and knowledge exchange place where there's discussion boards, but it's blown up a much bit more feature than a discussion board. So that's really a lot about what Slack is, about communication, getting information, talking to people, posting questions. When you first get started, look around, do some of the help features, see what some of the postings are in the different channels. You'll get a sense of what's being posted where, so you kind of get a sense of where to go, and you can use the search feature to find certain information on certain topics you might be interested in. So some of the key ones we have is we have an introductions channel, and that channel is great for when you get started and you join, introduce yourself to the community, say who you are, what communities you're part of, maybe what you do for work or other kind of hobbies, interests, so that, people, when they see your postings and other stuff, they can say, oh, this is who that person is and what they're looking for. And, it's a way for us to get to know each other a little bit better. And then another key one where a lot of information, and the society and other communities post a lot of information about what's going on, whether it's news about what's going on in the society, membership, other updates about what's happening. Announcements is a really key channel on really what's going on, what the latest and greatest information is. That's one of our busiest channels because that's where a lot of information, things you'll see in the STC notebook or on the blog, a lot of that similar kind of content you're going to find in announcements. The community events channel is also a very good channel to find out what a lot of the communities are up to, what kinds of events and programs and webinars and social things that they're putting together. And many of these are open to all STC members, not just the community members themselves. So this is a good way to say, oh, well, here's a way to find out what these communities are up to and to participate and learn some things as well. If you're really not sure what's going on or where to post, or you've kind of looked around and you can't find a channel that is really attuned to the kind of question or information you're looking for, the general channel is a good place to sort of, it's kind of a bit of a catch-all channel for you to post that information and find out. And someone may be able to direct you like, oh, there is a little place where we're having that conversation because maybe you didn't see or find it. And it's a good location for that kind of information. And we always encourage, and we're looking for ways to help our volunteers and our leaders and other opportunities. We have a couple of channels that are kind of focused more on our community leaders and finding resources to find information about how to manage communities, how to engage members and do things like that. So our leadership channel is very useful for that. The CAC, the Community Affairs Committee, often puts a lot of information there about events and programs and resources going on there. And we also have a newer volunteer opportunities one, which Grant will show you how you find that channel. You go to that browse because you're not going to see it. So it's down in the V. Everything's typically alphabetical. So if you look under volunteer opportunities, that's a newer channel too, where we're going to be putting more and more information about opportunities that are available either with STC and committees and other kinds of things, and also the communities for their various functions and openings for support and places where you can kind of get your feet wet and learn and get some new skills helping out the communities in STC. Something else we do, Aaron mentioned at the head, is we're doing these new knowledge exchange conversations, and we've consolidated a channel and built a channel for the knowledge exchange meetings about information there to post up follow-up information and or questions to kind of continue those conversations. So that's the knowledge exchange, and that's one of the newer ones. And then another one that's really important to all of us in a lot of places, if you want to get information about work and you're seeking job stuff, or you're in transition or curious about stuff, we have a job seeking advice channel and a job postings channel. So that's where a lot of information related to career, work, job information is you're going to find there. So really just, take advantage, look at the link. This is a great resource. It takes time to really get to know Slack and get comfortable with it, whether you access it from your mobile device, from the browser, or you download the app. There, the functionality feature sets change a little bit, but it's really very easy and able to access it in all kinds of ways. And it's really catching on more and more. Every month we get more and more, dozens and more people actively involved and more content and information going on there. So that's really something we just encourage you to get in there and play around, introduce yourself and say hi. And then just one of the things I'll mention as an admin is before, we try not to create too many channels because it can get a little crazy. We've got about 60 now. I think it covers the broad gamut of other stuff, but if you really want to make and create a channel, we really suggest that you contact an admin and ask about that, because we may be able to funnel more conversations so that, if we get too many channels, conversations get a little too spread out. But we do over time, and will occasionally, if there's channels that don't have a lot of information or engagement, we will, be kind of culling some of those down. That's kind of one of the things, is this isn't the repository for everything. It's really the conversations and bulletin board that is going on. There'll be some steady ones that are going to be, full-time regulars, but there'll be, post-its and other conversations and channels that come on occasionally for either fixed time or fixed content related conversations as well. And so that's one of the beauties of that. So you can kind of come in and out, but a lot of things that, at least what's current, is going to be available to you here. So with that, I think we can try to open up with, some questions. And we really appreciate and thank you for joining us. I hope you really take advantage of this great tool and resource.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm backing up just to see just some questions in the chat. I think a couple of them may have been answered already, but I just want to make sure that all of them get, maybe people aren't working in the chat. So I have one from Nelson Vargas. If I'm in the STC workspace, do notifications from my workspace reach me?
If you're signed in, if you're using the desktop app, and this, I know there's a question further down about the desktop or the Slack app. The big advantage of the desktop is you can be logged into multiple workspaces and with different emails. And so, yes, you can see that. You may want to check with your IT or InfoSec group, because they may have issues about that, but that's not, I think that is becoming less an issue these days as more companies are familiar with Slack and realize what a resource it is, that it's not the same as using your work email for your personal email.
Right, great. I have another one from Lori Meyer. She's already logged out, but it might be good for the group and just to have it on record. I know that you can access Slack either from the browser or by installing the Slack app. I use the app myself, but are there any benefits of using the app over using the browser?
Yeah, there are advantages and disadvantages to the desktop app and the browser. The desktop app, you get better notifications. You get you can start Slack right away. You're not having to be running running Chrome or Edge or Safari. It's also easier to switch between teams or between workspaces. So if I share here, and
it's definitely better if you have multiple workspaces. Say you have work and different communities. See, Grant here has 5, and you can much easier switch between conversations and see notifications.
If I want to jump from STC to the Rocky Mountain STC, I can, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Basically, Control-1, and that jumps me straight over to that workspace. And you'll notice that the available channels, direct messages, everything changes when you move between the various workspaces. So the advantage of the browser is a little less overhead. A lot depends on your workflow. There are, if you do a Google search on desktop browser versus Slack desktop browser versus using it in desktop app versus browser, there are numerous people have commented and provided their take on things. So I would suggest going and taking a quick look at those and just seeing if those points make sense for you.
And I mentioned too in the chat, there's lots, and we have some links to resources as well. Grant, it's in a slide deck, which we'll be working to post, and also on that main webpage. But Slack has, I'm going to put it in the Slack in the chat, their main help one. You'll find all kinds of things and videos if you need to troubleshoot a little bit. Most of the times you can figure most things out or find it your own. We do, we have some limited support internally, but if you can't find an answer to anything, there is a Slack help channel in our Slack workspace. So, what's nice about Slack too is when you post a question, the entire community can see and help and support each other with questions. And that's one of the big advantages. But yeah.
There are no dumb questions. There may be, people may point you to a previous conversation. That's something I'll put in there, is that you can, let me move all the people out of the way. You can copy the link to a specific post, and you can then either repost that in a channel or put it in an email and send it to somebody saying, here's the answer. If you know what's going on. That's quite, especially if you're running, like we use at my company, we use Slack for internal tech support. That doesn't require filing a full-on ticket, just a quick, does anybody know if, quick question, so-and-so is a client. We don't need a help desk ticket for that. And we've got, people that can answer that right away. So
and you're likely to get multiple replies too, especially if it's a common thing. And when you click a reply, you can see that history too. And people can always update conversations and apply, later too. It's always asynchronous. So you're going to see at least, a few months worth of things going back a bit of time. We don't have unlimited messaging, but you can kind of also revisit things. When you do a search, you can find out that question may have been asked 3 months ago and there were some responses. So it's really a good idea when you get in there and you have something, to kind of search around and look in channels or do search to see if that's something that's been covered beforehand, because there's often likely some good information there about, something similar. But yeah,
I saw a question about, do the apps or utilities need to be turned on by the Workspace administrator, or can any user use them? It depends on the app. Some of them are Workspace admin controlled. Some require a actual payment to involve it. Some are not. If there is something like Google Calendar or whatever that you want, again, contact our admins and say, can we get this turned on?
Yeah, and chances are we probably can't. We have a pretty limited free version, and managing all these, there's lots of plugins and a lot of other features, but we might be able to do some limited things. But
and it also is something that if we've got all sorts of people asking for, say, I'll just pick the Google Calendar because it's cheap and easy. That if we decide to go to the full paid version at some point, we've got a shopping list of what features or what applications, add-ons people want, and we could roll those out early. Not making any promises, just it's that, if people don't ask for it, it'll never happen. other question was, if you use different email addresses for different workspaces, will they appear in the same dashboard or window? Yes, the workspaces all appear in the app. When you're in the browser, I honestly don't know. I've used the app so much. I'm an app user, so I have to test drive that to be able to answer that question.
And I
Are
know
there
we're
other-
getting towards the top of the hour, so
Yeah, are there
I
other
think we've
questions,
covered
Aaron?
most of it, but we can stick on for a minute or two. I appreciate everyone's participation.
There was one just for me. Is there any way to save this chat? Yes, individuals, well, the chat will be distributed with the information, but also if anybody is in the chat feature, if you look at the message section, I think people will be able to do this. You'll see where you type in a chat message. You'll see 3 buttons beside the smiley face emoji. Click on that. You may see the option to save chat. So if you want to save that on your own, you should be able to do that if people are curious. But we'll have a copy of this chat if there's good tips in here for you and links.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. Yeah, get in there and explore.
Yeah.
I'll put the link one more time to, it has the invitation, and just take your time. And, it takes a little while to get familiar with everything. So just, but once you get in there, feel free to engage and say hello.
Yes, it's definitely a good networking thing. At least it's been for us for STC. I mean, I didn't have any Slack experience, and it was very easy to pick up and learn just by using.
I saw somebody said they didn't see the 3 dots option. It's right next to where you would send a message. You'll see like to everyone, and then there's a page and a smiley face, and then the 3 dots should be right adjacent to that.
Sometimes it's also your version of Zoom. Sometimes certain levels won't allow it, but if not, we'll be
Good point.
distributing the
Again,
chat. So
it's like versionitis. We all suffer from it. We've all documented it.
So for those who don't have the dots, it's okay. We'll still have a copy of the chat for you to distribute. So don't worry about that.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't, again, you start being a power user and you forget the beginner level stuff.
Yeah, the journey we've also learned using Zoom.
Yep.
Different levels.
Well, thank you all for coming and listening, and feel free to ping me if you've got a specific question or something. I'll try and answer it. And
yeah, definitely you could find them both on Slack and LinkedIn.
What a concept.
Yes, go into Slack and ask us, do a direct message. That's a good way to play. Go down to the bottom and just, if it's something, you don't want to do the community, you can also directly message specific people, which is also you can have individual conversations as well. And that's one of the benefits of this. Not everything has to be to everything. You can if it's, you're getting off topic or narrow into something more focused, you have that option to do. So
all right,
go into that introductions and say hi. We look forward to participation.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you'll join us for future CAC programs. If you have any notes for us, you can feel free to email us at membership@stc.org or find us in Slack. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks all.
See you. Bye-bye.